Yes, guys, this is Andy Pecora. Right now, you're looking at me when I was 18 years old. I was in my last play at my high school, and we were performing Much Ado About Nothing using Napoleonic era costumes. As you can see, I was pretty geeked out about it. Besides showing you a bit of my personality, the real reason I'm showing you this is that this picture, I think, really captures my passion for social studies. I've loved social studies since I was in grade school. It's this passion that I want to highlight in my teacher identity project. My passion for social studies has led me to learn about the diversity of ways we can look at and approach social studies. As a future teacher, I believe the best way to express my passion for social studies in the classroom is to present three big ideas to my students. These are going to be my tenets that I will use to guide my curriculum. The largest concept I want to get across is the idea of perspective. We all come from different households that have different problems and different desires. Understanding that everyone comes from a different perspective allows people to discover that there is no simple way to approaching and solving the problems of our world. For example, the Arnolfini wedding by Jan van Eyck that you see here is presented to the viewer from the artist's point of view. But if you notice in the background, there is a mirror. When we look at its reflection, we see the same scene, but from the mirror's point of view. What this does is it adds more depth to the actual painting, which gives the observers a greater understanding of the painting as a whole. I think social studies can work in the same way as this painting does. By studying the perspectives of different people, places, and ideologies, students will be getting a more complex, diverse, possibly controversial, but also more unique view of society. The next big idea I'd like to discuss is the idea of personification. I believe social studies can be presented in a boring way sometimes. I think if teachers work on personalizing characters and even countries, students will become more engaged in learning about our subject. They won't be learning just information, but they'll be learning a story. That is why I really like this political cartoon. It depicts the major European powers during the years of China's open door policy. What I really like about it is it shows politics as a kind of hunting story. So when students are learning about European colonization, they're thinking, what happens next in this story, instead of, why am I learning this? Personifying also lets students use their social skills to observe and evaluate characters. For instance, if students see FDR's legs, they can see how traumatic polio was to him, and how that trauma may have affected his political agenda. When we personify even controversial characters, students will be able to make better critiques about them. Instead of seeing them as one-sided caricatures, they will see them as people trying to deal with the world. The last idea that sums up my teaching philosophy is connecting content to the world outside of school. I don't think social studies means anything unless it connects to our world. I want to be a social studies teacher because I believe history, politics, geography, and economics really do affect the way we live our lives. I'd like my students to know that these subjects will influence the way they see the world. What I think would be effective in social studies is to find certain topics in the media now and tie them back into history, for example, and see where certain themes have reoccurred. Themes like mass migration. If students see themes happening over and over in other places or in the past, my hope is that they will recognize how people are products of their environment. This recognition could possibly guide students into making more thoughtful decisions or opinions regarding our world's problems. Now, these ideas that I've described to you haven't always been the ideas that have kept me passionate about social studies. I used to think, in high school especially, that history was all about what is right and what is wrong, and the reason those other people are wrong is because they don't have the facts. That thinking justified my own opinions about the world. And it wasn't until I took my first AP European history test that I was confronted with my way of thinking. I did really well in the multiple choice portion of the test, which had a lot of facts in it. But when I went to the essay portion, I got literally the worst grade I have ever gotten on an essay. I was kind of confused by that, so I went to my teacher after class and I asked him, why did I get such a bad grade? I had so many facts in my essay, and I asked him what I needed to do to get a better grade next time. My teacher just straight up told me, Andy, you know a lot of facts about our unit, but if you can't describe why that information is important or why it's significant, it really doesn't mean anything. When he told me that, that really hit me. Later on, when I was taking the class, I started to see what he meant, because he presented history in a way that said everyone knew what was happening, but they all responded differently. And I thought that was literally so much cooler than the way I'd been seeing history. When I become a teacher, I really want to be that teacher that shows students, social studies isn't just about facts, but how we present those facts and how we make sense of them. There's no one right history or economy or political theory. Each has its own strengths and weaknesses, and it's really up to the student to decide what is right for them. In order for students to get to this type of thinking, I think they'll need the right resources to do it. The best ones I found have been primary resources. It is what my teacher used to help me get out of my old mindset, and it's a resource that really forces students to make judgments about the culture that those artifacts were made in. Because they're so diverse, they can be used to bring out a learning style. More visual kids can use the symbolism of George Washington's portrait, and more aesthetic kids can see the meaning behind these Ojibwe moccasins. The next step would be to have students share their findings, and that's why I want to utilize discussion forum software in my classrooms. I believe everyone has an opinion, and everyone's opinion definitely matters. Having students share, I think, will help them develop argumentative skills and help students find their voice, and actually be proud of it. With that, this is the end of my project. I hope you've learned a little something about me, and I'm glad I was able to share a little of my passion with you. Cheers, guys.